आगे आगे। I hope you do not mind if I speak in Urdu. It's our mother tongue. दोस्तों, मुझे आज एक खूबसूरत फर्ज अदा करने को कहा गया है। मैं रोशनी कोहामनी की जानिब से आप तमाम रोशन ख्याल दोस्तों को इस खूबसूरत महफिल में शिरकत करने पर खुशामदीद कहता हूँ। हमारी रोशनी कोहामनी सूरज की एक किरण की मानिंद है। सूरज सारा का सारा एक ही लम्हे में तुलू नहीं होता है। रात के अंधेरे को कम करने के लिए अचानक उसकी पहली किरण निकलती है, तब रफ्ता रफ्ता फिर पूरा सूरज नमूदार होता है, जिससे सारी दुनिया मुनव्वर हो जाती है। हम चंद लोगों की कोशिश भी इसी किरण के मानिंद है, जो ये दुनिया में फैलती हुई नफरतों को, मजहब, नस्ल और रंगतों की तंग नजरियों को और तमाम इंसानी वैल्यूज़ को ख़त्म करती हुई सियासतों को, जिसने फिर से तमाम दुनिया को एक नई तबाही और नाइंसाफ़ी के ख़तरनाक मोड़ पर ला खड़ा किया है, वापस टॉलरेंस और जस्टिस की तरफ लौटा सकते हैं। ये नफरतों और मोहब्बतों की ईंटों से बनी हुई दीवारें पहली बार नहीं खड़ी की गई हैं। हमारी तारीख इंसानी खून की बहती हुई नदियों से रंगीन है, लेकिन हमेशा इंसान ने इन तारीखियों के खिलाफ मोहब्बत और इंसानियत की मशलें जलाई हैं। आज आप और हम, जो यूरोप के एक दूर दराज जजीरे के दारुल सल्तनत के बीचों बीच खैर और आफियत से बैठे हुए हैं, वो ऐसे ही चंद रोशन ख्याल लोगों की बेलूस कुर्बानियों का नतीजा है। फराज ने कहा था, शिकवे तीर किए शब से कहीं बेहतर था, शिकवे तीर किए शब से कहीं बेहतर था, अपने हिस्से की कोई शमा जलाते जाते। तो आइए कम से कम हम अपने हिस्से की शमा को रोशन करते हैं, ताकि ये शमें मिलकर आज की फैलती हुई तारीख को ताबदार बना सके। मजरू ने कहा था, मैं अकेला ही चला था जानिबे मंजिल, मगर लोग आते ही गए और कारवां बनता गया। आइए हम आप सबको और आपके तमाम हमख्याल दोस्तों को, जो यहाँ हैं और जो यहाँ नहीं हैं, दावत देते हैं कि वो इस अंजुमन रोशनी कोहामनी में शामिल हों, ताकि हमारी आवाज़ भी उन आवाज़ों को स्ट्रेंथ और बुलंदी अता कर सके, जो दुनिया के कई हिस्सों से जुल्म, नफरत और तबाहियों के खिलाफ बुलंद हो रही है। मैं, मेरे हमख्याल रोशन जहन डॉक्टर, शायर और इस अंजुमन के रूहे रवां डॉक्टर हिलाल फरीद से दरख्वास्त करता हूँ कि वो आएँ और हमारे सालाना रिसालुद्दीन मेमोरियल लेक्चर और दीगर प्रोग्राम की कार्रवाई को आगे बढ़ाएं। डॉक्टर हिलाल फरीद।
Just a little bit about Risal by Mr. Risaluddin, M. Risaluddin. He was a philanthropist and a humanist. He was originally from Dehradun in India, and he was educated at Aligarh and had a business here in London and in Pakistan. He and his wife, Mrs. Sabah Risaluddin, along with some other like-minded people like Mr. Qasim Baba Sahab, who is here amongst the audience, founded an interfaith organization called Calamus Foundation. And that's where from the idea of Roshni actually came, and Risaluddin Sahab was one of the founding members of Roshni. That organization also worked for dispelling myths and bringing communities together. And he was a very liberal and progressive man who had no time for bigots. He was a great orator known for his wit and humor. Sadly, he passed away in 2012, and since that time we do regularly do this Risaluddin Memorial Lecture. Amongst the people who have been invited in the past to deliver this lecture have been people like Ziauddin Sardar, Nasir Iqbal from Pakistan, Razali Abdisab, and author and screenplay writer from Bombay, Javed Siddiqui. And today we are really honored to have Anjula Singh, who will be shortly speaking and delivering this lecture for this year. Anjula Singh, as the Deputy Head of Production Operations at BBC, achieved herself up to the highest role to be held by an Asian lady at the corporation. She left the BBC. She left the BBC in 2016 and is now the new Director of Communications of the Labour Party. You can imagine how busy she must have been over the last week and days with the Labour Party conference going on. Yet she has been kind enough to find some time for us, and she is here. We have requested Anjula to tell us about her experiences of working in the BBC and in politics, to give our audience some idea of her successful journey as a British Asian career woman. I request Anjula Singh to come to the stage and deliver the Risaluddin Memorial Lecture 2018.
Thank you very much for such a kind introduction. Thank you very much, everybody, for inviting me to speak today and for allowing me to share your evening with you at this wonderful event. I'm deeply honoured that I'm following the footsteps of so many other people delivering the Risaluddin Memorial Lecture. So today, I'm going to talk to you about being a South Asian woman, growing up in the UK and fighting for career opportunities, and how, through not just mine but other people's struggles, we can pave ways, pathways for others to follow more easily. I'm also going to talk to you about identity and the complexity of identity for someone like me. I really am so delighted to be here. Roshni for Harmony resonates with me in so many ways. It is built on principles I hold close to my heart, commitments to racial, religious and cultural pluralism, and in connecting people through dialogue and culture. These are essential elements for someone like me, a woman of South Asian origin growing up in the UK, someone who straddles many different cultural experiences and influences, and whose identity is a complex and often fluid thing. But more on identity in a little while. First, let me start by telling you who I am and what I do. I recently joined, 4 months ago, Her Majesty's Leader of the Opposition's Office as Director of Communications. I oversee and sign off the internal and external messaging, manage the media teams, create the communication strategies, and I'm one of the key contacts for all media. It is an incredible insight into how the country is run, how government works, and how and why political decisions are made. I can confidently say that no woman of South Asian origin has held that type of post before. I am new enough to walk around the Palace of Westminster in awe and to marvel at my good fortune at working in such an historical building and in the very centre of democracy. And I have to tell you that I was completely excited to do my first Prime Minister's Question Time and to sit in the chamber and to just feel the weight of history and be working for one of the most remarkable men and politicians of this century. Before this role, I worked in the BBC for over 20 years. I slowly worked my way up to roles where I headed some of the biggest departments in BBC News, including studio and gallery staff of a 450-strong department with budgets of tens of millions of pounds. I was also head of business change for BBC News, preparing 5-year strategies for how they work in the future. Again, I can confidently say that no woman of South Asian origin has held these roles before. In fact, no woman, no South Asian even. I say this here with sadness and some bemusement. How can this be? These institutions and these roles, they're not new. South Asian immigration into this country, that's not new. I'm certainly not one of the only women of South Asian origin in this country. I grew up in multicultural Britain, and not only in one of the most diverse cities, but in Brent, one of the most multicultural boroughs in London. Yet, once I walked through the doors of New Broadcasting House, and through the Palace of Westminster and the House of Lords and the House of Commons, where are the women like me? Do they disappear in a puff of smoke as they try to push their way through the doors and enter? Are the doors marked no entry for them? Working in the BBC has given me the most incredible opportunities and experiences. I have met people from all over the world with the funniest, saddest, most painful, happiest and funniest stories to share. And often these people have been my own colleagues, and they were all driven by one thing. They wanted to tell truth, stories, and they wanted to change their countries. One colleague from Burma told me about the 7-year incarceration he'd endured because he'd supported the idea of democracy in a military dictatorship. Another colleague introduced me to the UN ambassador of Afghanistan, saying they'd met several years ago whilst in detention over a bit of light torture to get some information out of them, and all they'd done was to write and publish information in covert magazines and newspapers. I loved the BBC, what it stood for, impartial and trustworthy news, and all these experiences it gave me, and the ability to meet these marvellous people. And in my own small way, I could contribute to making the world a better place by getting reliable information to those who needed it. There is something about the changing nature of news which is addictive, the buzz of it and the teamwork of putting together a TV or a radio programme. And I enjoyed absolutely everything I did. I learned to broadcast and to present, and I learned technical skills and had different demands on my brain in the studio and in the field. I worked in children's TV and TV News and BBC One and BBC Two. I launched a channel for Iran called Persian TV. I launched one for the Arab world called Arabic TV. And I led teams and departments across the world. I took every opportunity that looked interesting. And I worked everywhere. Global Language TV, to the Today programme on radio, Newsnight, BBC World, the 10 o'clock news, across South Asia, Southeast Asia, and even in the war zones of Afghanistan. I'm in fact the only member of my vast extended family to have been to Pakistan since the partition. But I fought hard and I worked hard for each and every opportunity I had, knowing that to succeed, I would have to be at least 10 times as good as anyone else. Each progression was slow. And whilst I always feel extremely lucky to have had those successes, something else, something beyond the extra hard work I had always put in, something else always troubled me. Why was I, generally, the only brown face in BBC decision-making meetings and boards? Why was the accepted ratio in these meetings 25 white men and me? And why was that being applauded as progress? And what on earth happened to the multiculturalism and equality of opportunity I had been promised at school in the 1970s and 80s? It was still talked about, but I couldn't see it around me. And in fact, it had morphed into talking about inclusivity and diversity, but only the framing and the words had changed, nothing else. Nothing about my workplace outside World Service felt multicultural. And I certainly don't subscribe to those, such as Sir Trevor Phillips, who say multiculturalism is dead, political correctness added to its death. What I do believe, from my own experience, is that a lot of time is spent on intellectualising concepts and not actual actions. Therefore, in plenty of media organisations, you see people of South Asian origin working in roles at entry level or as presenters, but not in roles of real authority or decision making. As Steve Biko said, the myth of integration as propounded under the banner of the liberal ideology must be cracked because it makes people believe that something is being achieved, when in reality, the artificial integrated circles are just soporific. So this means that we shouldn't be fooled by talk of concepts and tolerance, but we should expect, and not ask for, we should expect inclusivity, equality, more open doors. As second and third generation immigrants, we should be more strident and confident that these are our entitlements as much as anyone else's. And we should support each other on this, because when you start pushing into establishments like the BBC, they push back hard and they close ranks. And you can't do it by yourself. Being the only in the workplace is not just a struggle, it's quite often lonely. I have been the only woman, the only Asian woman, the only Sikh, and any combination of those terms, where I was always the other, and where I was constantly proving myself and my worth. So when we achieve success, we owe it to others to not pull the ladder up behind us, but to transform that ladder and to transform it into an escalator so others can more easily reach where it took us many years to get to. This generation, my generation, needs to play an active part in that and in making it happen. How? By going beyond the words and devoting time to making these industries more accessible. By using our positions and influence to bring about change which is faster and more effective. For example, mentor as many young people as we can, and deliver and devise development and leadership schemes and opportunities for them. Go out into our own communities as mature and confident role models, and take mentoring one step further into sponsor people, actually actively bring people like ourselves into the workplace and get them to attend board meetings and nominate them for projects and promote their work shamelessly so that we can make a difference. As Khalil Gibran said, paradise is there, behind that door, in the next room, but I have lost the key. Perhaps I only mislaid it. So let us grab that key and take off the no entry signs on the doors that we have been through ourselves and help and encourage people through those same doors. I have built some of the most diverse teams at the BBC because I seek out support, help and encourage underrepresented people who are like me. So let us build our own inclusive networks and establishments. Earlier I said I would come back to talking about identity. Identity is fluid and complex, but you have to have a real sense of who you are to push through career barriers and to survive once you're there. Whereas someone looking at me might only see my brown face, I have a richness of culture and experience they probably can't even fathom. I consider myself to be Indian, Punjabi, British Asian, of South Asian heritage, Sikh, a Londoner, I'm a daughter, a mother, a wife, a friend, a carer, a media exec, a comms director, a cook, a cleaner, and a full-time laundry worker. So like so many people, And this wonderful mix of so many elements which can make a workplace more relevant and contemporary. And of course, I'm also a product of my history. So let me run through a little bit of my history, because it's important to know where you come from and to understand what makes us as the unique individuals we are. And I know some of this history will be very familiar to some of you, but I'd like to just tell you it from my own experience of how I see it. I consider myself fortunate because I know my history, and I understand that each privilege I enjoy is because I stand on the shoulder of giants. My grandparents were refugees, my parents were refugees, and then they became economic migrants. They have had similar experiences to some of you in the audience, I'm sure. Both my mum's and father's families were Sikhs living in Punjab when the partition of India happened, and they were forced to leave like millions of others with nothing. At the time, they didn't know for how long, but to escape riots around them, they boarded trains to India. And my father, who is old enough to remember, recalls seeing the most horrific and barbaric acts on trains which were travelling both ways, to India, carrying non-Muslims, and to Pakistan, carrying Muslims. His memory is failing him, but those memories are seared into his mind and clear to him in every detail, as if they happened yesterday. Both my sets of grandparents arrived in Delhi, in India, with nothing, and my father and his family of 13 went from living in a house which was big enough to be the first convent in Pakistan to living in 2 rooms. They were separated from their wider extended family, most of whom they never saw again. But they built new lives, and the stories of my grandparents' struggles that I heard in my childhood made me strong, and each time I heard them, I was reminded that my heritage was a strong line of undefeated women and men, and it ingrained in me that it was possible to do anything. The lack of information that they had at the time they boarded those trains, and the fear and chaos that lack of communication caused, made me determined that I would find a way to get news and information to people. It instilled in me the importance of storytelling and the significance of big events, which impact generations of people and have lasting effects, be they the partition, the Holocaust, the fall of the Berlin Wall, or things I have witnessed myself in my own BBC career, like earthquakes and natural disasters and the Arab Spring. So you see, the threads of my grandparents' and parents' experiences have silently woven their way into influencing what I want to do with my life and into my own identity. This is because I treasure my culture and history, and I've chosen to make it part of my future. My father came to England looking for a better life in the 1960s. He faced struggles of his own and was later, after an arranged marriage, joined by his young wife, my mum, still looking very young. Seeing my parents build lives for themselves in a community to replace the families they left behind made me determined to build on their sacrifices and their hard work. It taught me about bravery, I witnessed it firsthand. And it taught me not to give up. It made me a fighter, and it showed me what immigrant communities can do when they work together. In fact, at first my parents were working so hard that they had to send me to India to be raised by my grandparents until they were financially stable. And I spent a glorious childhood growing up in an extended family, set up in a small army town outside Delhi, in Meerut. I was treated like a princess, living the life were it not for school. School was a Catholic convent with the highest academic standards, but it was austere and run by cruel nuns who often beat and humiliated us. But here I learned about discipline and rules, and I yearned for an environment where I could question and not just learn through instruction. My escape was reading. I read every book I could get my hands on. And where I couldn't question at school because I wasn't allowed, I questioned my grandparents and aunts and uncles, and endlessly questioned the servants who ran the household. I heard about and witnessed the most wretched poverty, and whilst I felt lucky myself, I resolved to change the world to make it fair. And I developed a growing sense of injustice and what justice should be. It made me realise how lucky I am, and that by some small, slight hand of fate had given me opportunities that others didn't have, and I should treasure that, and I should treat that with care. And that became a part of my identity, which is my ambition and my determination never to be pigeonholed. Of course, my family also gave me my religion, and the Sikh principles are a large part of who I am. I'm so proud to be of a religion bookended by two very different gurus, Guru Nanak and his principles of peace, humanity, equality, and Guru Gobind Singh and his principles of justice, bravery, and courage. So I'm all of these things, and then together they make up my identity, and they make up the path that I've chosen in terms of my career. But I'm also the scars of the ignorant racism I've experienced. From the little girl, my best friend, skipping across the playground to whisper that she couldn't come to my first English birthday party because I was a Paki, to the skinhead who spat on me and pushed me into the bushes even though his black shiny boots were the size of my head, to the careers advisor who laughed when I shared my ambitions with her, and the men who refused to accept the strategic direction I set when I was their boss, and the boss who told me I should be less mainstream and work in diversity projects. I choose not to be scarred for long, but to make that the fire in my belly, and to carry on walking through whichever doors I want to and choose to, and most importantly, to hold those doors open and to bring others through those doors with me, even if they are marked no entry.